Imagine this. You're in ancient Mesopotamia, parched after a long day of building ziggurats. You're not reaching for a glass of water. Oh no, you're cracking open a clay vessel of beer. Why? Because that frothy brew might just be safer than the local H2O. Sounds wild, right? Archaeologists have been digging into this very idea, and what they've uncovered is as surprising as it is fascinating. Stick around, because we're about to dive into a tale that's as old as civilization itself, one that might just make you look at your next pint in a whole new light. Ancient water problems, contamination and unsafe sources. In ancient times, water sources were often teeming with contaminants that could make people seriously ill. Rivers, streams, and wells were frequently polluted with waste, both human and animal. This waste carried harmful bacteria and parasites. Drinking from these sources could lead to diseases like dysentery, cholera, and typhoid. These illnesses were common and often fatal. The lack of understanding about germs and how diseases spread made the situation even worse. People had no idea that tiny organisms in the water could make them sick. They simply didn't have the knowledge or tools to purify water effectively. Contamination wasn't the only problem. Many water sources were simply unsafe to begin with. Rainwater collected in barrels or cisterns could become stagnant and breed mosquitoes. These mosquitoes carried diseases like malaria. Groundwater from wells might be contaminated with salt or other minerals, making it undrinkable. In some areas, water sources were scarce, forcing people to travel long distances to find water. This made it difficult to ensure a consistent supply of clean water. The lack of infrastructure for water treatment or distribution meant that people had to rely on whatever water they could find. This often meant settling for water that was less than safe. The quality of water also varied greatly depending on the region. In coastal areas, saltwater intrusion could make freshwater sources undrinkable. In arid regions, droughts could dry up water sources entirely. In densely populated areas, the demand for water often outstripped the available supply. This led to overuse and further contamination. People had to make do with whatever water they could find, even if it was unsafe. The lack of proper sanitation practices also contributed to the problem. Waste was often dumped directly into water sources, further contaminating them. This created a vicious cycle of pollution and illness. Without modern water treatment methods, ancient people had few options for ensuring their water was safe to drink. Why fermentation mattered? Natural purification through brewing. Fermentation was a game changer in ancient times, especially when it came to making beer. It wasn't just about creating a tasty drink, it was a clever way to make water safer to consume. Brewing beer involved boiling water, which killed off harmful bacteria and parasites. This process made the water much safer to drink than the often contaminated water sources available. The fermentation process also introduced beneficial yeasts and bacteria, which could outcompete and suppress harmful microbes. This natural purification method was a significant health advantage, especially in regions where clean water was scarce. The ancient brewing process was surprisingly sophisticated. It started with malting, where grains like barley were soaked, germinated, and dried to convert their starches into sugars. These malted grains were then mashed with hot water to create a sugary liquid called wort. This wort was boiled, which served a dual purpose. It sterilized the liquid and extracted bittering agents from added herbs or hops, which had preservative qualities. After cooling, yeast was added to the wort, initiating fermentation. The yeast consumed the sugars, producing alcohol and carbon dioxide. This not only made the beer more palatable but also created an environment that was hostile to many harmful microorganisms. The alcohol content in beer, even at low levels, acted as a natural preservative. It inhibited the growth of harmful bacteria and fungi, making the beer safer to drink over extended periods. This was particularly important in ancient societies where food and water safety were constant concerns. The brewing process also introduced beneficial compounds. For instance, the hops used in beer have antimicrobial properties that further enhanced its safety. Additionally, the fermentation process could enrich the beer with vitamins and minerals, making it a more nutritious beverage than plain water. Moreover, the social and cultural aspects of brewing reinforced its importance. Beer was often brewed in communal settings, ensuring that the knowledge and techniques were passed down through generations. This communal brewing also meant that the beer was regularly consumed in social gatherings, further promoting its role as a safer alternative to water. The process of brewing beer was not just about creating a drink, it was about creating a safer, more reliable source of hydration. This natural purification through brewing was a testament to the ingenuity of ancient societies in addressing their basic needs for safety and health. Ingredients and brewing methods. What made ancient beer unique? Ancient beer was a far cry from the hoppy, carbonated brews we enjoy today. It was often thick, sweet, and more akin to a porridge or gruel than the beverages we are used to. The main ingredients were simple: water, grains, and yeast. Barley was the most common grain used, but ancient brewers also experimented with wheat, millet, and even fruits like dates. These grains were often malted, a process where they were soaked, germinated, and dried to convert their starches into sugars. This was a crucial step, as it made the sugars accessible to the yeast, which would later ferment them into alcohol. The brewing methods were equally rudimentary. The grains were typically mashed and mixed with water in a large vat. This mixture, known as the mash, was then boiled to extract the sugars and kill any unwanted bacteria. After boiling, the liquid, now called wort, was cooled and transferred to another vessel. Yeast, often wild and not the carefully cultivated strains we use today, was added to the wort. The yeast consumed the sugars, producing alcohol and carbon dioxide as byproducts. This fermentation process could take days or even weeks, depending on the ambient temperature and the type of yeast used. One of the unique aspects of ancient beer was its nutritional content. The grains used in brewing were often enriched with minerals and vitamins, making the beer a valuable source of nutrition. Moreover, the boiling process killed harmful pathogens, making the beer safer to drink than the often contaminated water sources. This is why, in many ancient civilizations, beer was consumed daily, even by children. The beer was typically served warm and was often flavored with herbs, spices, or honey to enhance its taste. Some ancient brewers even added bread to the beer, creating a hearty, filling drink that could sustain workers through long days of labor. The brewing process was also deeply intertwined with religious and cultural practices. In ancient Mesopotamia, for instance, beer was offered to the gods as a libation. The goddess Ninkasi was even revered as the patron deity of brewing. This cultural significance meant that brewing techniques were often closely guarded secrets, passed down through generations. The beer itself was not just a drink but a symbol of community, celebration, and divine connection. This cultural context added another layer of uniqueness to ancient beer, setting it apart from the commercialized, industrialized brews of today. Alcohol as a disinfectant. How it reduced pathogens. Alcohol has been used as a disinfectant for centuries, and its properties were likely known to ancient brewers. When consumed, alcohol can help reduce the number of harmful pathogens in the digestive system. This is because alcohol is a natural antiseptic. It can kill or inhibit the growth of certain bacteria and viruses. In ancient times, when water sources were often contaminated, drinking beer might have been a safer choice. The fermentation process, which produces alcohol, could have made beer less likely to cause waterborne illnesses. The effectiveness of alcohol as a disinfectant depends on its concentration. For instance, ethanol, the type of alcohol found in beer, is most effective at concentrations between 60% and 80%. However, the alcohol content in ancient beers was likely much lower, usually around 1% to 4%. Even at these lower concentrations, alcohol can still have some disinfectant properties. It can disrupt the cell membranes of bacteria, making it harder for them to survive and reproduce. This means that even weak alcoholic beverages could have provided some level of protection against harmful pathogens. Moreover, the process of brewing beer involves boiling water, which itself is a method of purification. Boiling kills many types of bacteria and parasites that might be present in the water. So, not only did the alcohol in beer act as a disinfectant, but the brewing process also helped to ensure that the water used was safer to drink. This dual action of boiling and alcohol content could have made ancient beer a more reliable source of hydration than untreated water. Additionally, the social aspect of drinking beer in ancient times might have contributed to its safety. Communal drinking from shared vessels could have spread beneficial microbes among community members, similar to how probiotics work today. This shared exposure might have helped build immunity against common pathogens. While this is speculative, it's an interesting thought on how social practices could have influenced health outcomes in ancient societies. Archaeological findings, residue analysis, and ancient containers. Archaeologists have made some fascinating discoveries about ancient beer and its role in daily life. They found that beer was often safer to drink than water, and this is partly due to the brewing process. Residue analysis has been a game changer in understanding this. By examining the insides of ancient containers, like pots and jars, scientists can identify traces of ingredients used in brewing. For instance, they've found remnants of grains, like barley and wheat, which were common in ancient beers. These grains contain sugars that, when fermented, produce alcohol. Alcohol acts as a natural preservative, making beer less likely to harbor harmful bacteria compared to untreated water. Ancient containers themselves tell a story. Many were designed to store and ferment beer. Some were even shaped in ways that facilitated the brewing process. For example, certain pots had narrow necks, which helped trap the CO2 produced during fermentation. This not only preserved the beer but also enhanced its flavor. Archaeologists have also found that some containers were lined with materials that prevented contamination. This was crucial in ensuring the beer remained safe to drink. The materials used varied, but they often included natural substances like beeswax or plant resins. Residue analysis has also shed light on the additives used in ancient beers. Scientists have identified traces of herbs, spices, and even fruits. These weren't just for flavor. Many had antimicrobial properties. For example, some herbs like hops, which are commonly used in beer today, have natural antibacterial effects. This would have made the beer even safer to drink. The combination of alcohol and these natural antimicrobial agents likely made ancient beer a much safer beverage than water, which could be contaminated with all sorts of harmful pathogens. The study of ancient containers has also revealed how beer was transported and stored. Many containers were designed to be sealed tightly, preventing contamination during transport. This was especially important for trade, as beer was often transported over long distances. The design of these containers also suggests that beer was a valuable commodity. It wasn't just a drink, it was a vital part of ancient economies and social life. The care taken in brewing and storing beer highlights its importance in these societies. Cultural significance: beer as medicine, food, and ritual drink. Beer was more than just a drink in ancient times. It was a staple of daily life, intertwined with culture, health, and spirituality. In many ancient societies, beer was considered a safe and nutritious alternative to often contaminated water. It was consumed by people of all ages and social classes, reflecting its deep cultural significance. The brewing process involved boiling water, which killed harmful bacteria, making beer a safer choice for hydration. This practical benefit elevated beer's status beyond mere refreshment. In ancient Egypt, beer was a vital part of the diet and was often used as a form of currency. Workers building the pyramids were paid in beer, highlighting its importance as a food source. Beer was also believed to have medicinal properties. Ancient Egyptians used beer in various remedies, including as a treatment for stomach ailments and as a wound cleanser. The malted grains in beer provided essential nutrients, making it a valuable supplement to the diet. This dual role as both food and medicine underscored its cultural significance. Rituals and religious practices further cemented beer's place in ancient societies. In Mesopotamia, beer was offered to gods during religious ceremonies. It was believed to have divine origins and was used in rituals to honor deities. Beer was also a central element in festivals and community gatherings, fostering social bonds. The act of brewing and sharing beer was a communal activity, bringing people together. This cultural practice reinforced the drink's importance in daily life and spiritual traditions. The deep-rooted connection between beer and community life highlights its enduring significance. Comparison with water quality: real safety differences. In many ancient societies, beer was often safer to drink than water. This wasn't because beer was inherently safer, but rather because water sources were frequently contaminated. Rivers, streams, and wells could be home to all sorts of harmful bacteria and parasites. People back then didn't have the same water treatment methods we do today, so they often turned to beer as a safer alternative. Brewing beer involves boiling water, which kills many harmful microorganisms. This simple process made beer a more reliable choice for hydration. Moreover, the fermentation process in beer production added another layer of safety. The alcohol and the low pH environment created during fermentation can inhibit the growth of many harmful bacteria. This is why, in many ancient cultures, beer was a staple drink for all ages, including children. It's not that they were all alcoholics, it was more about practicality and survival. Water, on the other hand, could cause serious illnesses like cholera and dysentery. However, it's essential to understand that safer doesn't mean safe. Ancient beer could still harbor some pathogens and wasn't free from risks. Additionally, the alcohol content, even in small amounts, could have long-term health effects, especially for growing children. But compared to the immediate risks of contaminated water, beer was often the lesser evil. This is why archaeologists have found evidence of beer production in many ancient civilizations, from Mesopotamia to the Americas. The real safety differences between ancient beer and water were stark. While water could make you sick quickly, beer was a more consistent and reliable option. It's a testament to human ingenuity that people figured out ways to make their drink safer, even without understanding the science behind it. Today, we have advanced water treatment methods, but it's fascinating to think about how our ancestors navigated these challenges. Their solutions, like brewing beer, were practical and effective for their time. Why beer became daily hydration, science behind the choice. Beer became a daily hydration choice in many ancient cultures due to a combination of practical and scientific reasons. One of the primary factors was the relative safety of beer compared to water. In many regions, water sources were often contaminated with harmful bacteria and parasites. Brewing beer, on the other hand, involved boiling water, which killed many of these pathogens. Additionally, the alcohol content in beer acted as a preservative, making it a safer option for consumption. The process of fermentation also played a crucial role. During fermentation, yeast consumes sugars and produces alcohol and carbon dioxide. This process not only enhanced the flavor but also made the beer less hospitable to harmful microorganisms. As a result, beer was less likely to cause waterborne diseases compared to untreated water. This made it a reliable source of hydration, especially in areas where clean water was scarce. Moreover, beer provided essential nutrients. Ancient brews were often made from grains like barley and wheat, which contained vitamins and minerals. These nutrients were beneficial for overall health and helped sustain people during times of food scarcity. The malted grains used in brewing also made beer a good source of carbohydrates, providing energy. This nutritional value made beer a practical choice for daily consumption. Another factor was the cultural and social significance of beer. In many ancient societies, beer was more than just a drink. It was a part of daily life and rituals. Communities often gathered to brew and share beer, fostering social bonds. This communal aspect made beer an integral part of the culture, encouraging its regular consumption. The social and cultural benefits further solidified beer's role as a daily hydration choice. Alright, let's wrap this up. So, to sum it all up, ancient beer wasn't just a tasty drink, it was a lifesaver. The brewing process killed off harmful bacteria, making it safer than the often contaminated water. Plus, it provided essential nutrients and even acted as a kind of ancient multivitamin. Isn't that fascinating? It's like the world's first functional drink. Now, first bet you're wondering, what other ancient foods and drinks had hidden health benefits? Or maybe you're curious about how brewing techniques evolved over time. Well, stay tuned because we're diving into more of these intriguing historical mysteries in our next video. You won't want to miss it. And hey, if you found this video as refreshing as a cold brew on a hot day, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more of these awesome historical deep dives. Until next time, keep your curiosity bubbling like a good batch of ancient ale. Cheers!